Welcome to Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Jillian Johnson. Happy first day of October. It's hard to believe we are already in a new month, but as far as the last full week of September went, we saw another round of much needed rain, but it also came with some severe storms. We get this week's episode of Weather Extra started by taking a look back at some of the damage left behind due to the round of storms that moved in 1 week ago. Take a look. Many Central Texans started the work week off left cleaning up a mess after severe storms raced through our area. Some residents woke up to find some of their belongings completely unrecognizable. Here's the view out in Robinson, where strong storms turned Benny Stinson's 35-foot tractor shed into a pile of scrap metal. Tree limbs littered the ground across Stinson's farmland. And take a look at this. Renters at the K&L storage in Spiegelville had to sort through their belongings after those strong storms rolled through. Wind gusts reportedly reached up between 70 to 80 miles per hour at one time. Those strong winds flipped over an entire storage unit building, destroying 12 units. In a restaurant in Temple, the Radabar County Grill on Farm to Market Road at 2086 saw part of their building fall down to the ground due to those severe storms. Wind gusts in Bell County topped 65 miles per hour when storms raced through. And an animal rescue, also in Temple, was feeling grateful after those storms moved in because all of its 200 animals were saved in Sunday night storms. The Tiny Hooves Rescue and Petting Zoo also lost a barn, part of the owner's roof, and some smaller structures as well. And these severe storms brought some hail into Central Texas too. Thankfully, most of us saw quarter-size hail or smaller across our area. Here's a picture from Ross Hughes, where as you could see in his hand, a quarter-size hail fell at his home in McGregor. Now we did see some larger hail falling near the Lorena area. Take a look at this video where it looks like ping-pong to golf ball size hail was falling. We thankfully missed out on the larger and more destructive hail from that round of severe weather on Sunday. Across Georgetown and Round Rock, a baseball-sized hail fell, pelting cars and homes, smashing glass windows left and right. In one Round Rock neighborhood, there's not one home or car that went untouched by hail Sunday night. And those storms also lit up the sky across Central Texas. Sunday night's storms produced a ton of lightning, just like you're seeing behind me right now. What caused all this lightning was the extreme heat that we had in place when storms developed late Sunday afternoon and evening. The extreme heat caused a great amount of instability, which caused the storms to grow high in the sky, which then helped produce more ice, then also inside those thunderstorms, which then led to more lightning production. And all of that lightning had Central Texas fire departments very busy Sunday night. Here's a picture of an active fire from a scene just a week ago. A lightning strike struck a home in Park Meadows neighborhood in Lorena, and you could see the hole in the roof where the bolt of electricity touched down. The department says thankfully there are no reported injuries. And the Waco Fire Department was also busy Sunday night putting out this house fire likely caused by a lightning strike as well, just like what you're seeing on your screen right now. This is a house fire on Carriage Lane, and according to the homeowner, the top peak of the house was struck by lightning that led to the collapse of the home. Again, the home appeared to be a total loss. So you at home may be wondering, how do we protect our homes from this? For more on that, here's meteorologist Sean Bellafury.
The talk around the water cooler on Monday was likely all about the thunderstorms Sunday evening. Not only did those storms produce some gusty winds and some hail, but prolific lightning. In fact, I want to go through and talk about how much lightning this one thunderstorm in Bella-McLennan County produced. Over the course of 15 minutes, around 8:35, just in this box alone, east of I-35, there were almost 600 strikes of lightning. And in southern McLennan County and northern Bell County at about 7:35, again a 15-minute time frame, almost 1,130 lightning strikes recorded. Now, lightning is one of those things that you need heat for, at least in most circumstances, and boy howdy did we have a lot of that. High temperatures on September 24th in the triple digits. Cold front was able to move its way through and help those showers and thunderstorms to get going. Unfortunately, the lightning did strike at least one house across Central Texas and potentially many more. It's not impossible to kind of protect yourself from lightning strikes strikes, but you got to move your house and pick it up in order to avoid lightning striking. Whole home lightning protection, which includes the grounding of wires and cables, that's about $1,450 on average. So if that's too much for you, one of the things you can do is purchase surge protectors, not power strips, because if your house does get struck by lightning, that will prevent that surge of electricity from causing a fire. You can also unplug your items as well as a lightning storm moves in. If your house is struck by lightning, call 911 immediately, and after the storm moves out, have an electrician inspect your home post-storm. Reporting in the studio, Sean Bellafury, KWTX News 10.
Switching gears and now on to some of the other weather headlines that we're following from the past week. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, says last month was the hottest August ever recorded, dating back 174 years. The average global temperature and land temperature rose to 62.3 degrees. That's more than 2 degrees higher than the average temperature in August during the 20th century. The sizzling August temperatures mark the 534th consecutive month where temperatures have soared above the 20th century average. And scientists measuring sea ice coverage on the planet say the ice extent in the Arctic Sea this year was the 6th lowest on record. According to researchers at NASA and the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the ice cover in the Arctic shrank between March and September. They say the ice declined from 5.64 million square miles to 1.63 million square miles. The amount lost is enough to cover the entire continental United States. Sea ice is important to polar ecosystems and is a significant factor of the global climate. Meanwhile, in the Antarctic Sea, ice reached its lowest maximum extent on record on September 10th, and it happened during the cold, dark months when the ice cover should have been increasing at a rapid pace. Okay, now on to some super exciting space news. After a 7-year journey, a capsule carrying NASA's first asteroid samples landed in the Utah desert last Sunday morning. Spacecraft OSIRIS-REx brought back soil from a near-Earth asteroid, Bennu. As CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry reports from Washington, scientists hope it will contain clues to the origins of life.
Studio milestone, we have confirmed parachute deployment.
In a flyby of Earth, the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft released the capsule containing asteroid fragments from 63,000 miles out.
SRC has touched down.
The saucer-shaped capsule, holding possible clues about the birth of the solar system, slammed into Earth's atmosphere and touched down in the Utah desert. Sunday's landing wraps up a 7-year, 4 billion-mile voyage to transport the sample from an asteroid called Bennu here to planet Earth. NASA officials spoke about the successful mission.
It was pulse pounding, I'm sure, for you watching it, even more for those of us in the helicopters. We were, with bated breath, making sure that we came down for a nice soft landing in the Utah desert, and it worked spectacularly well.
The capsule holding the precious cargo was moved to a temporary clean room at the Defense Department's Utah Test and Training Range.
We're hoping that we'll see organics, we'll see amino acids, the building blocks of life, as well as evidence for past water on Bennu, because all of these things are the sorts of materials that asteroids and comets delivered to the Earth when it was forming and helped life to be able to flourish.
Meanwhile, the mothership, OSIRIS-REx, set off after another asteroid.
Because they are pristine examples of planetary building blocks, we want to study them because they're going to tell us a lot about how the Earth and all of the planets in our solar system were formed.
Since the capsule was intact, it's likely the 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid pieces were free of contamination, making them perfect specimens to study. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Coming up next on Weather Extra, we've officially changed seasons and have been in fall for 1 week. Leaves are changing colors across the nation, but when do we start to see those beautiful fall colors in Central Texas? We'll talk more about that after the break. Welcome back to Weather Extra. It's hard to believe, but we are now in the month of October. I know it hasn't been feeling like it lately, but we did switch seasons last weekend and we're officially in fall. Now, fall officially kicked off last Saturday, September 23rd at 1:50 in the morning. The start of fall is more technically known as the autumnal equinox. That's the precise moment the sun is directly over the equator, giving us equal length in time for day and night that day. It typically falls between September 22nd or 23rd each year. calendar. We are in the season of fall until Thursday, December 21st, which is when the winter solstice or the start of winter. So we still have a while to go until we really get that cooler air. But here behind me is actually a look at who's starting to see those leaves change colors across the nation as we move into the month of October. The northern half of the country, out west and up along the northeast coast, is where leaves are already changing colors right now. Now, by the 23rd of October, we typically start to see leaves changing colors across the Texas and the rest of the southeastern United States as well. But up along the United States and Canada border, they are actually already past their peak of the season. Heading into the month of November is when we start to see and near our peak of fall foliage season here in central Texas. And by November 20th, as you can see behind me, majority of the nation will have already seen their peak colors. But us here in central Texas, along with other Gulf Coast states, will be enjoying those wonderful fall colors. But like I said before, the northern parts of the nation are already nearing their peak. And according to a new study, climate change is shifting the peak of foliage season at the Acadia National Park. Brittany McCanton spoke to the Schoodic Institute research behind the report to learn more.
I love fall and I love data.
As both a climate scientist and a native New Englander, Dr. Stephanie Spera jumped at the chance to research climate change and its effect on Acadia National Park.
Fall foliage is so charismatic and I love it so much. And I was like, I wonder if climate is affecting this. And if so, what does that mean for things like Acadia?
Before Stephanie, we hadn't had any research done on how climate change is affecting fall foliage. And fall visitation is a huge time for us.
Using satellite data, historical records, and visitor-submitted photos, among other sources, Spera determined peak foliage occurs about 10 days later now than it did in the 1950s.
Timing of fall foliage is really driven by a bunch of factors, but really two main things: the temperature and the length of the day. So as temperatures are warmer, the trees can hold on to the leaves longer in the season.
People plan these trips years in advance. So if you're like hoping, you're like, all right, I'm going to bet on a week to go. What week are you betting on, right? You're not going to bet on that first week anymore. I'd bet on that second week.
Spera says peak foliage now happens around October 14th to the 18th. That's also about the time park operations start winding down for the season.
We're trying to cover that with the same amount of staff as we've had in the past. And so our ability to provide services later into the season is just constrained by our ability to how many staff we have and how long we can hold on to them in the season.
I'm hoping it makes people who visit these parks really realize how fragile these ecosystems are, right? These places that we love, these things that we want to see. Like, let's think about how what everyone is doing is affecting climate and how important that is.
Straight ahead on Weather Extra is this week's Degrees of Science. Meteorologist Camille Hawksworth got to chat one-on-one with a Purdue student who helped create the whitest paint in the world to help cool cities across the world. You'll learn much more about this after the break.
I'm joined by PhD student Andrea Felicelli, who works under Professor Ron and Professor Chu at Purdue University to help develop the whitest paint in the world. Their innovation has put them in the Guinness World Records and also won the 2023 Innovation Award in the sustainability category by South by Southwest Conference and Festivals. And Andrea, this is such an amazing project to be part of. What has this experience been like for you to be involved?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me on here. It has been a great project to be involved in. Climate change is something that I'm definitely very passionate about in the fight against. And it's been great to be a part of this project and feel that we're working on science that has these applications that can help to fight the effects of climate change and to be able to develop those technologies that can hopefully be implemented soon.
What makes this paint different from just your ordinary white paint?
The average white paint is white because it reflects all wavelengths of light in the wavelength spectrum that we call the visible spectrum. So those are the wavelengths that we're able to see with our human eyes. However, the spectrum of solar radiation includes the visible spectrum, but it also includes ultraviolet wavelengths and near IR wavelengths. So while other white paint mostly reflects in that visible spectrum, so in our paint, we optimized it to be reflected in the entire solar spectrum of wavelengths. So all of the solar radiation gets reflected as opposed to just in those visible light wavelengths.
Andrea, tell me, why do you think it's so important to develop this ultra white paint? I know you kind of mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but why again do you think it's so important?
There's been a lot of studies in all the different ways that we can kind of make small changes to combat climate change. And one of them, of course, is always how can we reduce CO2 emissions? How can we reduce energy usage? How can we also deal with heating effects of climate change? And this paint kind of addresses all of those things.
I do want to ask you, how can the average person benefit from this discovery that you guys have made? And what about plans to make it available commercially? Are those in the works?
We are working with a commercial partner to commercialize our paint at the moment. So hopefully that's something that will continue to progress along. And I feel like the average person will really be able to benefit because this paint is really just a paint. Apart from being optimized for this use and for being able to cool under direct sunlight, the way it's applied, the composition is no different from paints that you get just at the hardware store. So they can be applied on housing, on buildings. We also have recently released a publication on a more lightweight version of the paint that can be used in aircraft, vehicles, wearable technologies, since it has a lower density and is better for weight sensitive applications. So this could potentially be really impactful in just the average person's life.
Well, you mentioned the weight. I know that's kind of where you have played the biggest role. Is there still innovation to happen with this whitest paint in the world? Are there still improvements that you and your team hope to make?
There's definitely things that we're working on, any improvements that we can make in terms of environmental safety, as well as the actual parameters of the paint are always a great thing. So it's always in the works.
Is the biggest impact from the actual material of the paint, or is it the color? Is it the reflective material? I know you guys use barium sulfate. Can you tell me a little bit about that, why it's so beneficial for us?
What gives the paint that high reflectance in solar spectrum wavelengths is the pigment that's used. So in the original paint that we published, it was barium sulfate. We also discussed some calcium carbonate. And in this latest iteration that's more lightweight, it's hexagonal boron nitride. All of these share the property of having good parameters for light scattering in these wavelengths, both because of the particle size and because of the particle shape.
What excites you the most about being involved in research and the science world as a whole?
Yeah, I realized pretty soon during my bachelor that I really enjoyed research. I really liked the development of new technologies, and being at Purdue working in this lab, I really enjoy being able to play an active role in developing technologies that can help to mitigate the effects of climate change.
If there's anything else you'd like the people to know about your development and your team's development about the whitest paint in the world?
Yeah, it's just great to see all the public interest. It's great to see so many people who are really interested in how they can have a role in mitigating climate change effects and being interested in technologies that can help that. I really encourage people to continue paying a lot of attention as things continue to change and as new technologies continue to develop, and as to how they can themselves contribute to that impact as well.
Welcome back to Weather Extra. Before the break, we learned more about the whitest paint invented to help roads reflect sunlight. Now, some of the Lone Star State's largest cities, including San Antonio and Austin, are testing out an innovative technology that cools down pavement. Betty Cross reports from Austin.
When a road in Austin gets resurfaced, the new layer of asphalt is deep black. It's a durable material, but the dark color absorbs more sunlight and then radiates it back. This new asphalt being laid on Barton Springs Road today will typically be 10 to 20 degrees hotter than concrete and other light-colored paving materials.
This section of road has a little bit lighter color.
City engineer Angela Johnson says Austin is testing how much of a difference color and cool pavement technology can make on an Austin street.
That stretch of road was treated with a so-called pavement, cool pavement, which is water-based emulsion and with addition of titanium dioxide.
Menardis Drive in South Austin got sprayed with the light-colored seal that reflects sunlight last fall. Since then, the University of Texas has done a series of tests to find out how effectively it reduces temperatures.
On an average, it could be anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10 degrees, depending on the conditions.
UT professor Dev Niogi says it's enough of a difference to make a city more livable.
Instead of the heat getting absorbed, it is reflected back. And if it is reflected, then it is not absorbed. If it is not absorbed, our temperatures don't rise.
127.
Today, we asked the city engineer to check the temperature of the treated asphalt with the thermometer we provided.
In sunlight, is at 127.
Definitely hot, but asphalt routinely reaches temperatures around 140 degrees.
And a little degrees cooler goes a long way. We know that very well right here in Central Texas. But get ready for yet another warmer than normal week. That's all we have for you on this episode of Weather Extra. We'll see you again next weekend.